Hey everybody, this is Hollywood from the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, and you're listening to the Card Subject to Change podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Have a good day. Bye.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
Well, sometimes love feels just right. It feels so real. It feels just like a power driver. Yeah, a power driver. That's what I'm talking about.
So me personally, I'm actually a lifer. I don't remember a time that I wasn't watching professional wrestling. Even my mom explains it to me as when I was a small child, you know, I would just stop in front of the TV and just sit and watch, and I'd just be quiet and just totally zoned in. So I always been a wrestling fan. And as I get older and even learn more about the business, it's like I continue to fall in love with it for different reasons.
It blows my mind. And I'm like tugging on my mom's pants and stuff. And I'm like, Mom. And she's like, yeah, what? And I go, I want to do that. And I'm like pointing at the TV. Well, she looks and she goes, oh, you want to be like Macho Man and wear this cool sunglasses and say, oh, yeah, and do the elbow drop? And I go, no, I want to be the guy throwing snakes at people.
Yeah.
And now, your hosts of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the For Frequency's Sake Tag Team Champions of the World, the Wizard CZ, and never wrong, Nick Bull.
Hello, one and all. Welcome back to another exciting edition of the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. I am your host, never wrong, Nick Bull. Joining me as always, my tag team partner, co-champ of the For Frequency's Sake Network, the one and only Wizard CZ. Wiz, how you doing?
I'm doing real good. I just want to remind the people we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zook of Country Financial. Nick, we've got a crowded backstage area today. We're talking all things SummerSlam coming up next weekend, and we got our second ever panel show here. Got some guests new and old. Who do we want to bring in first, my friend?
I was laughing about all of our guests. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking to every one of them. But when Christian Rose tells that story, I wanted to be the guy throwing the snakes. I think we've got a forum full of guys that want to throw snakes, would want to be the guy throwing snakes. So that cracks me up. I could see all four of our guests this week being the ones that wanted to throw snakes. So you bring in whoever you want. This is going to be entertaining. We tried it for WrestleMania and it worked. Why not for SummerSlam also? I got a feeling this is going to be a good time. I got a feeling we're going to be laughing more than anything, which is probably a good thing. But I'm buckled in. I'm ready to go. Whoever comes through that curtain first. It's like a rumble. Who are we going to get first?
Well, let's start. I joked with him off air that he was going to be last, but can't have our good friend Mr. Timothy Regal be the last one in. Tim, how are you today, sir? I am having trouble hearing you, Mr. Regal. If you Nope, still can't hear you. That's okay.
We can come back to him.
We'll come back. Oh. How about now? No, still can't hear you. We'll come back to you, Tim. Go ahead and pop out of the studio, pop back in, see if that helps, okay? And we'll bring you back in just a moment. All right, well, technical difficulties aside, let's bring in our good friend from Shotgun Wrestling Radio, Mr. Zack Takis. Zack, how are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. How you doing?
Doing real good.
Doing awesome, Zack. Seen you last weekend at the Hall of Fame.
SummerSlam.
Seen you last week at the Hall of Fame weekend, and glad to have you here talking SummerSlam.
Yeah, Hall of Fame was a lot of fun. It felt like it took me a few days to recover from it because you're gone all weekend and you're up with everybody. And my voice was hoarse just from talking all weekend. But man, it was a great time. Great to see all you guys, and we also got to see one of our guests that we have coming up here in just a little bit too, which is always a great time. And yeah, SummerSlam, it's right here around the corner. It feels like it's super early this year though.
It really does.
Feel a little bit earlier.
Zach,
does
take
feel
a
little
moment.
bit earlier.
Take a moment for those who don't know you and Shotgun Wrestling Radio. Go ahead and give us a brief introduction.
Yeah, so I host Shotgun Wrestling Radio. I started it with my friend Zack in 2010. We originally kind of started out as a podcast that taught mainly like national level stuff while throwing in local stuff, and then later on down the line, we pretty much switched to mostly local just because of how much Iowa wrestling there is in the state of Iowa. And he unfortunately tragically passed away in 2020, right before the world shut down. And then I picked it up again, kind of as shows started to open up again. And yeah, we've just been rocking and rolling and pretty much try to help all the local Iowa promotions as we can. Because like I said, every month I do kind of a monthly post of where you can find shows at in Iowa. And on any given weekend, you can find a show in Iowa from just about anybody, it seems like.
Very true. Very true.
You're absolutely
Absolutely
right. I'm going to ask each panelist a question here. Instead of why pro wrestling, favorite SummerSlam moment off the top of your head.
I'm going to go with SummerSlam 2002. That was the first SummerSlam I ordered as a kid, and it was because of the Shawn Michaels return. And honestly, Going back and watching that SummerSlam, it's one of the best SummerSlams just from top to bottom. When you factor in, you had Kurt Angle and Rey Mysterio. You have The Rock versus Brock Lesnar. I know Rob Van Dam was in there in a killer match too, but you just had
Eddie Guerrero.
Yes, even that match, like that was just a great SummerSlam, one that I still go back yearly and watch just because of how great it was.
Love that answer.
Well,
it's a great SummerSlam.
Love it. So we've got Mr. Regal coming back in. Let's see if we can hear him here. Tim, welcome back to the show.
Can you hear me now?
Yay! It's a winner.
I don't know what happened there because we were talking before the show and it was hearing me fine, and then all of a sudden when you hooked me in, it didn't go in. So live TV. But glad you can hear me now.
Tim, what is your favorite SummerSlam moment off the top of your head?
Well, Zach actually would have stole my answer of 2002 because that is the best SummerSlam of all time. But I actually am going to go to a few years earlier to a match that I think a lot of people overlook because of the people in it. One of my favorite, most underrated things in SummerSlam history is the Love Her or Leave Her match between Test and Shane McMahon, because that was an excellent match. They told a great story in that match. And then at the end, the perfect thing where Shane at the end turned babyface because he realized, okay, this guy stood the ring. He fought for my sister. He's worth it. And that led to Shane and Test's babyface turn.
Anytime Test is brought up, I'm a huge Test mark. It is great. And we've got him brought up twice so far in this show. But you're right. That is a good story. Often overlooked because of the participants, but a very good story. Very good match, underrated. I believe that was SummerSlam 99. Is that right, Regal?
Yeah, that would be 99.
Okay,
99.
okay.
Good year,
of course,
good year.
Tim Regal, voice of SCW play-by-play. Great friend of ours. Always shows up for the big shows, and we're glad to have him booked on this one.
Next, we're going to bring in someone who's really become a good friend of ours here over the last 3 or 4 months here. I have been on shows with him multiple times. He hosted a Podcaster Appreciation Month here not too long ago. He is the host of the No Cell Roundtable, the host of the Joe Monroe Show. Welcome into the studio, Mr. Joe Monroe.
Oh, shoot. Sorry, guys. Hi. How you guys
What
doing?
were you reading? What were you reading? We got to see that again.
I was reading Arn Anderson's book.
All right.
Yes,
All
yes,
right.
all
Nothing wrong with
Sorry,
that.
I'm halfway through. I swear. Okay. How you guys doing? It's been a minute. How are y'all doing?
Really good. Really
Joe
good.
Monroe, glad to have you on. What is your favorite SummerSlam memory off the top of your head?
My favorite one is actually one of my favorite matches is Brett versus British Bulldog SummerSlam 1992. Hands down.
Good answer.
That's probably one of the best, if not the best SummerSlam moment individually.
Good answer. Joe, for those who are not familiar with you, give us just a brief synopsis of who you are and what you do, my friend.
Oh, not a problem. So as CZ said, I am the host of the No Sell Roundtable, and I actually do the history of professional wrestling. We do those every Friday, and here recently, I am doing a horror show with my good friend Alex Eldridge. It's the Eldridge and Monroe Horror Show, which big news. We actually got it accepted for media passes for Scarefest 16. So that's going to be pretty cool coming up in October. So be on the lookout for it. And a lot of big things are going to change here at the Joe Monroe Show. So just be on the lookout.
Awesome. And we've got one more guest to bring in here. And of course, when you want to have the best episode previewing any show or best panel show ever, you got to reach for the top shelf. One of the hosts of the 2 Count podcast where comedy meets wrestling. Let's welcome in Top Shelf, Tom Chilstrom. Tom, how are you?
I'm doing very well, CZ. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And also, great intro there. You're correct. If you want a great show, you go for the top shelf. That's exactly how it goes.
Tom,
Top
give us
Shelf,
a little
what is
introduction
your-
about
What's your favorite
Nick and I are gonna
SummerSlam
step
memory
on
off the
each
top of
other.
your head?
Knock it off, you two. All right. I'm going to answer Nick's first, and then I'm going to go to CZ's on this one. So I'm a Minnesota guy. So, you know, it was already announced 2026 will be the first ever 2-night SummerSlam at US Bank Stadium, Minneapolis. So I got to go back to 99, where Jesse the Body is a special guest referee in that triple threat between Mankind, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Triple H. I mean, he was still governor at the time. And so big deal all around. You know, you get a political figure in there. You get a guy who Vince McMahon probably still hates to this day, still on the show. I mean, what's not to love about 99, right? And then just to give everybody a little introduction to the 2 Count, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, we stream on Twitch, YouTube, and we just got our Twitter back. Had to upgrade to the premium to be able to stream over there. But you can see us there with my good friends JR and Big Ace. Big Ace is the ring announcer for Absolute Pro Wrestling and Madhouse Pro Wrestling. I myself also work commentary for Absolute Pro Wrestling. And then JR is just a comedian like myself. So, you know, we make it work. You know, try and use the similarities between being a comedian starting out and all the rigmarole of that, and then also with how wrestlers seem to have to start out. So it's doing a little bit of back and forth. We have great independent wrestlers on all the time, either from Iowa, Minnesota, or, you know, throughout the country, depending on who we might be able to get as a guest. So it's a lot of fun. We run about 2 hours. It's not a bad way to spend a Tuesday night, to be real fair.
Absolutely not. Well, we've got a lot to talk about, gentlemen. We've got a packed card coming up this Saturday. 7 matches for SummerSlam 2024 coming to you this Saturday. Nick, where do you want to start? We've got a lot of good matches to choose from. 6 title matches, 1 huge grudge match.
I wanted to throw out there, what do you guys think about just a 7-match card? We have been getting the 5-match cards from Triple H in this kind of new Triple H era. Is a 7-match card going to suffice for you guys for the second biggest show of the year?
I don't think so. Mostly because my opinion is that there's no tag team matches on this card. Not that they aren't doing well with all the individual titles, but I think sometimes the build, especially for an Intercontinental and U.S., seems to fall a little bit on the wayside. So I would have probably maybe scrapped one or both of those for a tag team title match, but we'll get into some of that later. But I think a 7-match card is not terrible, but again, it's the quality maybe sometimes over the quantity.
Yeah, I think.
Joe, what are your thoughts on? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Regal.
Go ahead, Regal.
I've actually been pretty critical in the past about the 5. I do not enjoy the 5-match pay-per-view. It's not so much that it's a 5-match pay-per-view; it's that it just still takes 3.5 hours to do a 5-match pay-per-view. Sometimes 7 matches is okay for a normal pay-per-view, but like Tom said, for SummerSlam, you'd think you'd put at least one of the tag titles on, maybe, you know, another women's match. There's a lot of guys that aren't getting used. A lot of guys and ladies on this card that are on the roster that just aren't getting used on this card, and this is supposed to be your second biggest show of the year. And the fact that they don't even do pre-show matches anymore, so you're just 7 matches, and it's going to take 4.5 hours for it to do it. Just no, you need to have a little bit more action on your big show on SummerSlam.
Joe, what are your thoughts?
I would have to agree with both men here. It's a yes and no scenario. 5 matches, it's good. I personally think for the not for the big four, as I like to call it. Big four being SummerSlam, Rumble, Mania, and Survivor Series. Well, I did that way out of order. But for those 4, I think you have to at least have 10. You have to have at least 10 matches. Especially if they got a loaded roster. There should be no excuse why. And there should be no excuse why you're having long, drawn out matches. Even on the 5-card pay-per-views, just what Regal said, that should take maybe 2.5 hours, if that. Just like it used to back in the day. But 7 without a tag match, that's a no for me, dog.
Zach?
Honestly, I'm okay with it because I'm always just, kind of on the less is more type phase, and especially after you experience like the recent AEW show that had like 14 matches or whatever the hell it was, and you were exhausted by the main event. I mean, I know yes that they don't really do the pre-show matches anymore. I could totally see them though. Maybe since it is SummerSlam, hey, let's go ahead and put the tag team titles on the pre-show match this time around. Because isn't SummerSlam this year in Cleveland? And your boys Johnny and them are from Cleveland? I mean, I would think you'd find a place for them on the card.
Yeah, is that tag match taking place on SmackDown the night before, or will they make room for it on the pre-show?
That I do not know, but I would again, they've just everything that they've done this year. I feel like they deserve a shot at the main show here. I think, like I said, even whether it's the pre-show or a last-minute addition to the main show, like if that needs to be, I think, in there. Or we can maybe get Tommaso trying to RKO Randy out of nowhere somehow.
I'm with you. I think that the Bloodline being a part of this match needs it to be on a main card. And no slight to Gargano and Ciampa. They should be defending the belts on the main card as well. So I'd love for this match to be part of the Saturday show. Whether or not they use it for Friday night is, we'll see. But I think it needs to be on the main card. That's just my opinion. I'm a tag team guy too. So I agree with you there, Top Shelf, that there needs to be a tag team match on this card with all these singles matches. But we're on the wait and see approach, just like everybody else when it comes to this.
So with that being said, we're talking, Tom, you mentioned, the 2-night SummerSlam. What are your opinions on SummerSlam moving to 2 nights?
I mean, again, if you're thinking this is probably your second biggest show, which we've all kind of agreed that that's the case. I mean, it really does come down to how do you showcase all your talent as appropriately as possible. I mean, again, you mentioned that there's no Cleveland boys on any of this stuff. I mean, you don't have the Miz, you don't have Gargano on any of this stuff. I mean, those are 2 of your biggest guys. Cleveland's their home, and you're not there. I mean, people were talking about if WrestleMania comes to Minneapolis, well, then you're probably going to see Tiffany Stratton on there. I mean, there was even talk about, Gable Steveson, if he was still with WWE, possibly debuting at that WrestleMania. I just think it's an opportunity where you have a lot of names and you do have a lot of talent. And if you really want some of these stories to come to, fruition and actually develop, you got to give people the time to do it. I mean, we haven't seen a lot of talent in a long time. It just feels like you're really pushing the singles titles, which is fine, but to not have tags or not have more than just one grudge match. I mean, because again, there's always been payoffs for the big four, especially to not have more payoffs on this one, because we're still not going to see the end of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre after this. I mean, we're going to still have to see that go further because Seth Rollins' involvement is going to skew it one way or the other, depending on who you're going to talk to after the match or how they're going to sell it. So it's going to be one of those ones where, again, there's no real payoffs to this. I mean, Nia Jax could still battle against Bayley for the next 2 months. So I think when you start having 2-night events, they do need to have a payoff to them, because you're going to have to develop the storylines to lead into that. And I mean, and they're separated enough between WrestleMania and SummerSlam to have 2 nights, both events. I think you can develop those stories pretty well and then be able to start your loop back in for Survivor Series and Rumble time and then go into the next Mania.
For sure.
Top Shelf brings a good point there. When you talk about, and I'm not sure what match order we're going to talk about here or not, but when you talk about, we're not going to get the ending of CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. I'll add to that, Top Shelf. I don't think we're going to get the ending of Liv and Rhea. I think that's just the next step into that story. That's not ending by any stretch of the imagination. So you're right. There might not be any big payoff here. And with it moving to 2 nights, you're going to want to question that. Maybe kind of have, with WrestleMania, we kind of come to expect the end of storylines and the beginning of new ones. Maybe this is a fresh start for storylines with it going to 2 nights here in a couple years. That, SummerSlam, okay, new storylines now. That's kind of like the thinking we get with WrestleMania. Okay, we're getting fresh storylines now. Maybe that's a chance for them to do that when it does move to 2 nights.
Well, and even with the 2-night thing, and not to step on anybody's toes here, but I think with the Netflix deal that they have, this is a way of, again, kind of, Netflix is huge on having seasons, right? So if you're going to have seasons available to them, this is a good way of all of a sudden now you're leading past summer. Now you're looking at the fall. This is the start of another season. That's, I think, why this might be the development they want to go towards with SummerSlam being 2 nights.
But remember, too, with the Netflix deal, for the U.S. people like us, our pay-per-views are still going to be on Peacock, I think, through 2026. So, and I would be shocked if Peacock doesn't offer them a buttload of money, because they'll lose a ton of subscribers if they, I'm assuming, lose their WWE deal.
Yeah, I have Peacock for one reason and one reason only. Sure, there are a couple of other things on there that I will watch occasionally, but I have Peacock for the WWE.
The Olympics.
Speaking of the Olympics, head on over to our Facebook page. We are running an Olympic tournament of our own with pro wrestlers, so be sure to hit the like button on which one you vote to move on. Sorry, had to plug the Facebook page.
Great segue. I'm glad I could help.
The Olympics.
Oh man, we're off the rails. I don't even know where we were. Help me out.
I think it was 2 nights we were talking about them moving to 2 nights next year. Yeah, I agree. Go with Nick here. I think because at Mania, you have from Rumble, from Rumble to Mania is your stories for that, and I think after Mania would be fresh of the new stories until you get to SummerSlam. Now, whether they say they'll do that with Survivor Series, with War Games and everything going on, maybe in the future they might, because they consider Survivor Series as one of the big events. Me personally, I think that's way too close to Rumble. But no, I think with them moving to 2 nights, it shouldn't hurt them. I wouldn't think. But again, someone commented on here, depends on the booking. Depends on how they book those 2 nights. I thought it was kind of crazy when WrestleMania started, going 2 nights. And I was like, how's this going to work? And it worked out, all right. But when it boils down to it, all depends on the booking and how they decide to book this. Are they going to book this as a second WrestleMania and actually make SummerSlam a bigger event, I should say? Or are they just going to kind of, it may be a big event or it may not, like they have been in the past few years.
Regal, we haven't heard from you on your thoughts of the 2-night SummerSlam. What's your opinion?
I think, like Joe said, it's all going to depend on how it's booked. I didn't like the 2-night WrestleMania at first, but now I kind of do like the 2-night WrestleMania. Everybody gets in. everybody has time. And the biggest thing with two-night WrestleMania is it doesn't feel like as much of a slog as some of those pre-pandemic, right before the 2019, 2018 WrestleManias, where it literally felt like you were there all day. And so I have no problem with two-night shows because, yeah, you're going to get time for stuff and more people are going to get on the show. But like I said, biggest thing is, are the fans going to buy what they're going to be selling, which, that's still a year or 2 years away. So we'll see where it is when we get there. But I had an interesting conversation. I'm going to pose this question to you guys, possibly for the next question. What is the main event on next Saturday night? Because I was having a discussion with my buddy Doug Ritter, shout out to former NW No Limits promoter Doug Ritter, about what is the main event of this year's SummerSlam. What goes on last?
To me, it feels like it has to be Cody and Solo because you got to think Roman returns. I mean that I get where you're going at because Punk versus McIntyre with Rollins as the guest referee is also worthy of the main event, but I don't feel like you're not going to close SummerSlam without some type of face-to-face with Roman and Cody.
I mean, and it could possibly. I'm just saying possibly. I think it's kind of getting overshadowed by the Punk and McIntyre deal, but we also got Priest and Gunther. And that right there, I think, is still going to be a great match. That could possibly be the main event, but ideally, it's going to be Solo versus Cody.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking too. It's just as Zach mentioned with the bloodline and the Roman Reigns has to return to confront somebody here, right? Whether it be Solo or Cody, or it doesn't matter who at this point. He just needs to come back and confront somebody because that's the next story with this. It needs to happen eventually. I think depending on how outside the rules they might go with CM Punk and McIntyre. Again, that's the only grudge match we really have here. I mean, technically you say that Rhea and Liv is more of a grudge match with the title involved, plus some random dirty Dom jerk off that shouldn't. I mean, let's be real honest. This is the most soap opera story they have going on right now, and it's two women who are very much established, more than the guy that they're going for. It's like, listen, I don't know who's booking this stuff, but Dom is probably the least likely guy to get this, so good for him.
I can't believe we're bad-mouthing my boy Dom.
Oh, I'll bad-mouth him all day, Tim. I'm not worried about him coming and trying to get me, all right? He can't even
let me play off of that.
He's too short for it.
Let me play off of that a little bit. When do we see the custody of Dominic ladder match between Rhea and Liv?
I mean, is this storyline going to WrestleMania?
Survivor Series, maybe. I mean,
there you.
Because if you got Roman coming back at SummerSlam, then I mean that's going to be built up to that's going to be Survivor Series War Games. Come on, we all know that. And I know I had a buddy that was supposed to wrestle a certain member of that family, but he canceled all of his bookings after the month of September. Not going to say who. I don't want to spoil it. But he was supposed to have a match with them in November, but they said, hey, he's canceling all of his bookings after, starting in September. So that just tells me that someone that rhymes with the name Godzilla may be appearing pretty soon. And I think that's going to be, that could be what's happening with, the custody. God, I can't believe we're saying this. I mean, what do you drop that suitcase with as a big chicken nugget? If you want to go ahead and make it right for Dominic, since he likes chicken nuggets or whatever, he has got to be the most
briefcase full of chicken fingers.
Yeah, there you go. He's got to be one of the most luckiest and most hated person in wrestling in WWE. But I mean, he is taken after his father, Eddie Guerrero. So I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, let me pose this question to you guys. Do you think The Rock returns too? Because there's rumors that he just finished filming. Does Rock return as well at SummerSlam? And like you guys said, maybe they set up the whole bloodline division here between Rock versus Roman?
That could be a possibility, yeah. Because again, well, how about this? What if Rock comes and Roman is waiting, just waiting? We won't get Roman as of yet. We act like Rock's coming in to help, but it's a swerve. That could happen.
I don't think I'd be upset with that.
Right.
I like Heel Rock. This final boss Rock has been my favorite since before 2001 Rock.
That's fair. I mean, I think if you're going to have, you can't have both. It has to be either Roman or The Rock. You can't really have both of them come back like this because it's, I mean, it's a major pay-per-view, or premium live event. Excuse my language, everybody.
Yeah.
Don't.
Let's get that corrected now, okay?
Please don't at me, everybody, okay? Premium live event. But
now we've got to put an explicit warning on this episode. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I know. I said the wrong thing. Yeah. I also said jerk off earlier. Are you sure you shouldn't have put this on before that? I mean, but again, the reality is, and you saw this a few times with AEW in the past, right? If you try to have too many, this is who we just signed, or returns and whatnot, and The Rock and Roman Reigns are two of the biggest names still in wrestling right now. If you have both of them return on the same night in the same story, it makes little no sense. I would say it makes more sense as far as The Rock goes if he's going to align himself with the Bloodline again and become the actual leader there and take over for Solo. But if you're going to have one, I would say maybe The Rock just for that reason.
I think either way, this is where this storyline gets so much fun. There's a bunch of different ways you can go here. I do think if that's the only option other than that for main event, I think is Punk versus Drew. But yeah, if we're getting The Rock or if we're getting Roman or whatever, it's definitely going to be the Cody versus Solo match as the main. And like I said, the best part of it is it could go a couple of different ways. But obviously, I think it's the next chapter in the Bloodline story, which clearly we are nowhere near the end of.
Yeah, I think this match is, I think we've all kind of reluctantly taken a deep breath and accepted it as the main event. I'm talking Cody Solo here because of the anticipated return of either Wrestler A or Wrestler B. If a return doesn't happen, I think they've set themselves up for big-time disappointment because I don't know if the general public cares enough about this match for it to go on last without knowing there's a return there of Wrestler A, Wrestler B. It undoubtedly, I think, will be the main event because we'll see the return of one of them. But I would think if there wasn't a return, attached to this match, I don't even think the public would care as much with it. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, absolutely not.
And I like both these guys. I like Cody and I like Solo. I just think everyone's kind of assumed something big's going to happen after, so that's why it's going to be the main event.
And I think that's what's helped Solo out in the long run too. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Solo, but the anticipation of Roman coming back soon, if that don't happen, it would feel like as wrestlers would say, a popcorn fart. It's just it's not going to work. It's people's just going to be like, what the heck did we just watch here? Come on now.
Well, throughout that entire match, there's going to be a chance that we want Roman throughout that entire match.
Oh yeah,
it's going to happen.
Yep, you're right. You're right, Zach.
But either one with Rock. Go ahead. Sorry.
If my thing is, if neither guy is coming back, then don't make it the main. If it's just the next chapter of the characters we already have, even if it's the debut of Tala Tonga, I would not make that match the main. I would go with Drew and Punk as the main.
Yep.
Well, then we're all in agreement, then, right?
Yeah, I think we are.
Very rare for a wrestling room to be all in agreement.
We need to get in the room with those three of us. We need a gavel that says "agree." Boom.
Agreed. Boom.
On this topic, though, it's pretty easy to agree just because when you look at the level of talent there's very few that you're thinking are on that main event. Now, I mean, Solo's really not there, but with the story that they're telling, yes. But again, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, they've been there. Seth Rollins obviously involved with that. You just don't see that with the rest of the card. Damian Priest is getting there. Gunther should be there, really. But again, if we're looking at actually across the board, all the talent levels, you're only looking at about 2 matches that really have the names behind them to be the main event.
Right. And like I said, I think the whole Punk and Drew thing has overshadowed the Priest and Gunther match. I hate to say, because that's one match I actually am looking forward to, towards. I don't know about you all. I think that's going to be a great match. Now
Joe,
whether
I'm glad
Gunther
you-
wins or not will be different.
Joe, I'm glad you bring that up because I feel the same way. I'm looking forward to both those matches. I feel the one's being overshadowed. We've talked about it already. Let's go ahead and get it out there. Let's talk about Drew and Punk with Rollins as the guest referee. Give a round of applause here to WWE for doing this right. With Punk being injured, there's only so much they could do. They've done everything right. I think hats off to Drew for really taking this role on in this feud, in my opinion, and running with it. Like, I think he's added a dimension to his character. I think he's made maybe even being made a little more watchable. Like, okay, I care about what's going to happen to him going into this because everybody wants to see this. Everybody wants to see these two guys rip their heads, each other's heads off. There's literal disdain there for each other. If it's not the main, it's the semi-main, in my opinion. And unfortunately, it overshadows Priest and Gunther. But when you got 3 names involved in a big-time match, and it's the first time they're getting their hands on each other, it's going to kind of supersede everything else, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It is.
And at least for me, I feel like it's the perfect time to put the title on Gunther. Like, Damian Priest had a really nice run, but I'm like, if you don't put the title on Gunther here, it's like, kind of, for me, it's like, okay, where do you go? You had him drop the IC title at Mania. Now I think this is the next step, and he would, in my opinion, be a believable champion.
This, for all intents and purposes, is leading me to believe, maybe others, that this is like Gunther's coronation, right? It feels like that. It seems like it should be. I've got a feeling they're not going to give it to him, and I'm going to be very pissed off and upset. Like, this is his time, in my opinion. Like, it should have been sooner, in my opinion. This guy has it all. Goes out there and puts on classic after classic. That's a guy he's really evolved into this character. He can talk better now. Man, if they don't pull the trigger on him, I think they're missing a major opportunity. And it's no disrespect to Damian Priest.
I can see this match being, I can see Gunther winning, but I can see it because of the animosity between Priest and Finn Balor. I think Finn Balor is going to somehow interject himself into this match and in all likelihood cost Priest his title.
I agree with you.
I'm gonna throw a different scenario. I think Gunther wins clean. I think the Judgment Day comes out like they're going to help Priest, and that's when the turn happens. That's when Finn and JD turn after the match. But no, I think Gunther is definitely winning the belt here, and I think he's winning it clean. And then you're seeing the turn because the next chapter of the Judgment Day feud doesn't need the title belt to have heat. The heat is going to be the fact that the Finn, and I think this also ties into the Rhea and Liv match. I think the story here is that Liv and Finn have been working together the whole time to take it down from within, because Finn, who technically did start the group, became second fiddle to Edge, and then became second fiddle to Priest, and technically third behind Rhea, and he's mad, so he teamed up with Liv, who wanted to get back at Rhea, and they're taking it down behind the scenes. And I think that's where the next chapter is.
So which match happens first on the card? The women's title match between Rhea and Liv, or this match with Gunther and Damian Priest?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would probably...
You're saying, your reasoning.
I'm going to throw something crazy. I think Gunther and Priest is the opener.
Ooh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with that.
Actually,
Start the show big, start it hot.
That's actually what I was going to say, Tim, too, is that, especially when you look at like Money in the Bank, they have the men's go first. And not to get it out of the way, obviously, but one of those ones where if you are trying to set the table for a story throughout the night, it's not bad to have it, especially if it's going to be basically the destruction of Judgment Day. Set it up that way, because then you can have 2 or 3 matches still, have Rhea and Liv, and then you're still paying out the whole story throughout the whole night.
Right, and I agree with you. Regal, to correct you, Damian Priest was in Judgment Day before Finn got in. Finn was the 4th member of the Judgment Day, but it still works for Finn because you got to look at Finn's past. Bullet Club, I can say that. He started Bullet Club within New Japan when he was Prince Devitt. This could be, thankfully, God, I hope it is, we could see Finn finally getting the props that we all know as wrestling fans that have followed him most of his career knows he can do. I think he can start his own little Judgment Day group with McDonough and Liv, possibly Carlito. It depends on Carlito. I mean, he's just kind of there for comedic relief. I call him the Santino Marella of the Judgment Day, but no one can surpass R-Truth though. But I have to agree. I think either they cost Damian the title, or it's going to happen after Gunther wins clean. Either way, we're going to see that turn, and it's going to have to be kind of what it was with Edge whenever they kicked him out of Judgment Day. It's going to be kind of like that rivalry, but a little bit better.
Y'all have got me excited. Now that I'm fully entrenched that this is the first match of the night, and I'm even more excited that it's going to be Gunther and Damian Priest. Allow me to say that we are powered by Lopez Pizza, built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and protected by Jared Zuka Country Financial. We are the Card Subject to Change podcast, the podcast by the fan for the fan. We are joined by Zack Takis from Shotgun Wrestling Radio, Top Shelf Tommy Chilstrom from the 2 Count podcast, Joe Monroe from the Joe Monroe Show, and Timothy Regal, the play-by-play voice of SCWPro Wrestling. I'm never wrong, Nick Bull. This is the Wizard CZ. We're talking everything SummerSlam right now, and match placement and whatnot. And we fully believe, I hope it's true, that it's going to be Gunther, Damian Priest to kick off the show. Where would you be putting Seth and Drew? You don't want it to take away from the main event, but at the same time, it's probably the second biggest card on this show. Second biggest match on this show,
You'd have to put it somewhere in the middle, kind of that middle, like the middle of the card type placement, especially if it's not going to be the main. Then, yeah, that has to be maybe 2 matches before the main event, I would say. So you'd have the Seth or you'd have the McIntyre Punk match, then you'd have 2 more matches, then the actual main event is how I would kind of position that one, I think.
That's fair. Anybody else?
I mean, I can give you the whole list right now as far as how I see this, or how I would probably put it. I'd have Priest, Gunther to start. Then you have Bayley and Nia Jax next, because I don't know a whole lot of people who are super invested in this, and I don't know a whole lot of WWE fans that are really behind Nia Jax possibly being champion. Feels like they kind of trot this out once a year or so. And then you probably go back-to-back between the United States and Intercontinental Championship. Then you go to Liv and Rhea and probably Punk. I mean, those are interchangeable as far as I go. I think Liv and Rhea interchangeable with Punk, McIntyre, and then probably like I said, the Undisputed WWE Championship as the closer.
Well, don't forget about the U.S. title match with Logan Paul and LA Knight. Did I miss it?
I said Intercontinental and U.S. are interchangeable at 3 and 4.
Okay. My brain didn't register that because I don't have a brain.
Well, if you're going to talk about the U.S. Championship match, I mean, we brought it up here. A lot of people did, as far as Gunther. If he doesn't win, it feels like it's kind of a waste. I'm in the same boat if LA Knight doesn't win that championship. Yep. One, Logan Paul has barely defended it, but also, what are you doing with LA Knight then if you aren't pushing him up further? Are you just going to have him be your mid-card fodder for people to elevate them? Okay, that's fine, but he's probably not going to be your face of Slim Jims for very long. Like he's supposed to be a guy. He's a commercial face kind of thing. So,
but Tom, I agree with you totally. Like it seems like the ship has almost sailed with LA Knight, right? We've been riding this 2-year wave. We thought, or maybe we were told, that something would have happened bigger sooner with him as a Money in the Bank winner, as a title holder, and it hasn't happened. Like it's shit or get off the pot time, right? With LA Knight. Like if he doesn't win this, it's what do you do with him, right?
Oh,
that's
100%.
my opinion.
100%. Because it's just, again, he's been, as Eli Drake, he was a champion before TNA, NWA, and then even NXT, you had him still be a guy, be one of the guys who's running the company. And to have him be where he's at, and like you said, no payoff as far as Money in the Bank, even a Rumble win or anything like that, and then no titles on the main roster. At this point, again, it needs to be shit or get off the pot right now.
Right. Absolutely.
I think.
Oh, go ahead.
I think LA Knight is winning here. Honestly, I think you've gone about as far as you can go with Logan Paul as U.S. champ. You got the big headlines when he won it, and I think it's time for him to drop it off to somebody who can be on TV regularly with that title belt. And yeah, like everybody said, you got to give LA Knight something. He's super over, and obviously he was never going to beat Roman for the belt, but I think this is the spot that you can give him a title belt and then feature him on TV in some pretty decent, like, upper mid card feuds going forward. But yeah, I think I would say Paul, or I would say LA Knight wins it here.
I can see either way, but I agree. I think Logan Paul's, he had his time with it. It's time to move on. Same with LA Knight. I look at the United States title, same as the Intercontinental. That's a workers title. That's for someone that you truly believe in that's going to work their tail off for you, aside from either your WWE champion or your world heavyweight champion.
Mm-hmm.
But I would probably see if he wins, he holds it anywhere from 6 months to a year. Then after that, I would elevate him more back into the main event spot. I hate that it was kind of a waste for him in the past. But if you're going to have someone like LA Knight do that, be like your workman for a little bit, either have him lose it maybe once during that run and get it back to him. Then after that second loss, that's when you would have him chase after either the WWE Championship or the World Heavyweight Championship. But LA Knight, to me, needs this win. He's got to have it. It's time for him and them to trust in LA Knight and let him do what he does best. I mean, for I'm waiting on the dummy button to come back when he was Eli Drake. That's what I'm waiting on. And I was hoping he would do it with Logan, because I think that would have been a perfect opportunity with this feud. Or who knows? They could just have him and Logan feud for the next up until Rumble. I don't know. I can't say for sure. That could be a possibility as well. Knowing that, because I hate to say it, they have pretty decent chemistry together. So I can see different paths with this one. Intercontinental title. If you want to set up Survivor Series for the War Games, you got to get it off Sami soon. If not at SummerSlam, then it's probably going to be on a Monday Night Raw.
Let me hold you up there for just a minute, because we've been talking for almost an hour, and I have a feeling if we don't pay dues to our network and our sponsors, that the for frequency's sake tribal chief DJ Jarvis is going to yell at me, and I don't like getting yelled at by DJ.
He doesn't,
so we're going to take
yell
a
at
quick
me.
break.
He yells at CZ. He doesn't yell at me. He yells at CZ.
Yeah. We'll be right back in just a moment.
Football season may be over, but for frequency's sake still has you covered for all your sporting needs. Tune in every Sunday when the best professional wrestling podcast around, Cards Subject to Change, gets you caught up on everything inside the ropes. They won't miss a count with weekly analysis and interviews. More into auto racing? We've got a double dose for you on the track. Tune in to Fast Money with Rod Villagomez each week and win some money with the quickest bets in all of sports. Want more insight from Pit Row? Check out the Green, White, and Checkered podcast, where they give their insight on everything happening on and off the track. Need your basketball fix? Points in the Paint has you covered, with live shows every other week looking at everything in the association. Backed by popular demand, we have the return of The Payoff Pitch, FFSQC's baseball show, covering you on news around the MLB. If you're missing football, don't fret. Mark and Dan still have you covered in the football lounge. Missing Joe Winkle? Probably not, but he's still here talking sports on Educated Ignorance. Football season might be over, but we've still got you covered. For frequency's sake, you know what we mean.
For frequency's sake is brought to you by Durham Remodeling, serving the Quad City area's remodeling and repair needs since 1973. Clint's Draft House, grab a bite and a pint. 7th Street, Moline. Lopez, New York-style pizza served up by the slice or pie, Davenport. Lifted Energy, energy drinks, coffee, donuts, and more. #GetLifted. Atomic Sports Cards and Collectibles. Sports cards and memorabilia, vintage clothing, hats, pennants, and more. Ryan Allison Tattoo. Step into the vibrant world of tattoos with Ryan Allison. And A Cut Above, offering quality custom woodwork designed specifically around our customers.
Hey everyone, we are checking out at Walmart. We've got ourselves 4 full carts. We got plenty of toys here. We're going to see what our final number is here in a couple of minutes. But we've got a couple of nice folks here checking us out. But hopefully we'll got plenty of stuff for everybody to get everybody a nice, happy Christmas this year.
Football season is just around the corner, and once again, For Fantasy's Sake is running its annual Toys for Tots Fantasy Football Leagues. Don't miss your chance to be crowned the best fantasy football player in the Quad Cities and help raise money for Toys for Tots of the Quad Cities. The For Fantasy's Sake Toys for Tots Bowl is loaded with great prizes and even better local celebrity participants, ranging from professional athletes and news personalities, and even former Iowa Hawkeye fullback, SCWPro and pro wrestling trailblazer, Steve Manders. To sign up, just visit For Frequency's Sake on Facebook or Twitter and follow the links.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome back to the show.
Welcome
we
back
got
to
one more
Card
piece of business to take care of.
Yes,
welcome
back to the Card
saying?
Subject Change podcast by the fan, for the fan. We are joined by Zack Takis from Shotgun Wrestling Radio, Top Shelf Tom Chilstrom from the 2 Count Wrestling Podcast, Joe Monroe from the Joe Monroe Show, and Timothy Regal, SCWPro's play-by-play voice. Before we continue on with our SummerSlam discussion, it is time we have a visit from our friend JT Energy. Is it not, Wiz?
It sure is. I know.
Regal says no. Regal says no.
I know. Regal says no, but here's JT Energy with a moment of focus.
Welcome to a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy. And this week, what are we focusing on? You know what we should focus on? Doing things just a little different. Getting out of your comfort zone. And Card Subject to Change, this week, it's not just 2 men and a guest. It's a whole gang of you. So I appreciate you doing a little bit of foreshadowing and thinking differently. And everybody out there who's watching me and watching the moment of focus, this week, do something slightly different. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but you won't ever know until you try. This has been a moment of focus with the feline phenom, JT Energy.
I think we put Regal to sleep with that one. Before we get back in there, before we get back into our lively discussion here, I just want to give a shout out. If you are not going to watch SummerSlam, what's that?
Is the goof that thinks he's a cat done talking?
Hey, first
yes.
of all, you respect JT Energy, sir, okay? He is an institution, Iowa wrestling, and all throughout the Midwest and the globe, by the way, okay? So you respect JT Energy, sir.
Yeah, anybody that knows us too knows me and Mr. Energy do not get along very well.
Well, that's your fault, Sam.
If you are not going to watch SummerSlam this Saturday and you are in the Oskaloosa area in Iowa and you want to see some great pro wrestling, JT Energy will be there among many other friends of the Card Subject to Change podcast. Go check out Mall Madness, brought to you by Central Empire Wrestling. They're trying to make this is a new location, a new venue for them. They're trying to make this as big of a show as possible. And as always, we here at the Card Subject to Change love supporting our friends on the independent wrestling scene all across the state of Iowa and the world, if we can.
So the guy thinks he's a cat?
He's the feline.
He's the feline phenom.
Do some research on the man before you start asking random questions here, Joe. Okay?
I mean, in today's world, you can't tell. I'm just asking a simple question.
He doesn't identify as a cat. He has cat-like tendencies. Don't be screwy like this, man.
Okay, fine. Cat-like tendencies. So that means never mind.
Speaking of cat-like tendencies and cat-like reflexes, let's talk about Braun Breaker and Sami Zayn in this Intercontinental title match.
Great segue, Nick.
You like that? I'm glad you like it.
Especially Braun Breaker, man. He does have cat-like reflexes.
He does.
What is it?
His freaking size. Good night, Irene.
Isn't this a triple threat match, or is it just Breaker and Sami?
It's just one-on-one. It's Sami Zayn, and there's no Ilya Dragunov involved. It's just Sami versus Braun Breaker.
That's unfortunate for Ilya, but
it's interesting because CBS Sports is actually listing it as a triple threat match.
Really?
What? Yeah.
Well, WWE is, so shut up, Zack.
To be fair, maybe they know something the rest of the world doesn't. There is one more episode of Raw before we hit SummerSlam.
Maybe
I think they very well could turn this into a triple threat tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw.
Well, you guys can watch for me. I'll be up in one of those suites, living that top shelf life tomorrow night at the XL Energy Center in St. Paul. So no big deal, everybody. I got sweet tickets for Raw. It's okay. It's okay. I know people have a little bit of envy sometimes, but we can't all be top shelf.
I'm envious. Are you looking forward to the show tomorrow night?
I am. Just the Go Home Raw has always been their biggest show. I mean, even the Go Home SmackDown's a lot better, but it's still not the same as the Go Home Raw.
Are we in agreement here that this is the time to pull the trigger for Braun Breaker to become the Intercontinental Champion? I mean, they've tap danced around it long enough. They kept him out of the King of the Ring. They've kept every other title off him. I think now is the time for him to take that title.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's got to be, again, similar with Gunther and the world title. Like, if not now, then what are we doing? Because, just the way that Braun's been built since coming up, it just makes the most sense.
Yeah, I feel like that's been kind of a excuse me, a known trend with SummerSlam here. It's either now or never with a lot of these matches. And again, with the Intercontinental title match, if they want Sami, whether he's going to be part of the OG bloodline versus the Enforcer bloodline, as I like to put it, he's going to drop that title.
100%. Sammy's features in the bloodline storyline, and Braun Breaker is a guy that clearly he's a guy that Triple H wants to push to the moon, and I think this is the start of it. And while I think there's certain parts of Braun's game that are still a little raw and still need some tweaking and some development, I definitely think that this is the next step of his evolution, and I think he's going to get there at some point. It might still be a couple years down the line, but Braun is clearly a guy that they see that they're going to make in the future, and he's one of the next generation guys, I think.
Well, Tim, I think you're spot on. So you and I can agree on this one for sure. I think actually one of the prototypes that they need to go back and look at on how to actually handle Braun Breaker with this title is go back and look at how they use Braun Strowman and make sure they're not using that same model, that they make sure that they could they mold it in a different way where it's not going to feel like it's only Braun Breaker's an answer. And I think that's one thing that they can go back and say, okay, build him up, use the Intercontinental title to develop him more, to have some of these great matches that we saw in NXT, help make him better. Dragunov, whoever you might want to have. Again, Zach or Joe, you're the one who mentioned it as far as like a workhorse title, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what this really needs to be, is your workhorse title for whatever brand it happens to be on. And that's the best way of doing it, is a guy like Braun Breaker keeps getting better, keeps getting the time in the ring to actually show what he can do. But again, make sure you mold him a little bit more where it's going to be viable in a year and a half, 2 years, where he's in that main event scene.
Can I just say, when he gets to that main event scene and you've got Gunther up at the top of the card, I can't wait for those matches. Ooh. I want to see, book it right now.
Yeah.
I just want to give props to Braun right now. Like, I just can't believe how well he's come along in such a short amount of time being on the main roster. Like, he hasn't regressed back any time, in my opinion. Like, he just seems to keep going forward and forward and forward. If there is a mistake made, it's minor, it's fixed. Like, he's really impressed me. Like, it's not WWE shoving this new prospect, down our throats at every turn. They're giving us this guy in great sample sizes, and he is doing the best that he possibly can and knocking it out of the park. The promos could probably get a little better, and they will with time, but everything in ring, around the ring, he's amazing. He's amazing to watch. A guy that big that can move that quick and just destroy people. It's cool to see. It's refreshing to see that he's doing such a great job and hasn't really missed a beat.
And we got to look at his time in NXT. He basically carried that brand.
Yes.
While he was there. So
yes.
There you go. And that's the type of guy you want on your show, whether you want to put him as Intercontinental Champion or as your main event champion.
And I'll tell you who's not too far behind him is Ilya Dragunov.
Oh God, no. Goodness, no.
No,
he was in NXT UK, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before NXT.
Yes. But 100%. No, I'm agreeing with you. No, that he's nothing to sneeze at. That guy is in a whole different league, I think. For his size and his agility, he's something. Even on the independent scene, he was something. So I agree with you, Nick. 100%.
Okay, cool. I'm like, no, man, I think he's great, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for him. I think there's battles down the road with him and Braun. I think that's a storyline. I
want to see them run. I want to see him run Dragunov and Gunther back at a WrestleMania.
Yes,
Ooh.
I'm with you there too. I'm fine with that too.
What independent promotion did
one of their matches in front of like 70,000 people? Hey, if we're going to London, let's do it in London.
Hey,
hell yeah!
I'd be okay with that. I'd be okay with
sadist. What an absolute sadist Tim is. I mean, you saw their test after that last matchup between those two. You want to see that? Those meat patties again, those burger, just flesh like that. Beat up like that. What a sadist you are, Tim. Unbelievable.
Well, if it draws money, Tom, it draws money.
Oh, I get it. But also bring it up now, so close to when it happened, and just I want to see it again. There's something wrong with you, Tim. You got to roll it back a little bit. You can't just say that outright. I mean, I know a lot of people here are agreeing and stuff like that, but I'm going to blame you for being the top shelf sadist on this one, Tim. Okay, unbelievable.
I say this. That's one of the most violent matches I've ever seen, and I watch a lot of death matches, and there are death matches that aren't even that violent. Like there are death matches that aren't even that brutal. So,
well, hopefully 24 hours from now, after tomorrow night's Raw, Ilya's added to this to make it a triple threat. It just enhances that match even more. And I think we all agree that Braun's walking away with this, and this is the time to crown Braun as your IC champ.
Yes, sir.
Wiz, what do you want to talk about next? What match?
Down.
What's that?
Oh, you're going to hate me. I don't want to bring the mood down in the room, but we haven't touched much on Bayley and Nia Jax, and I'm going to say my piece.
There's a reason.
This is the match that needs to be off of the card, and DIY needs to be defending their belts in place of this match. That is my opinion.
We all need a bathroom break match, and this is it.
How dare
yes,
you
Tim. Yes, Tim. Tim's raising his hand. I feel like a substitute teacher. Yes, Tim.
Do y'all want to know why this match is on the card?
I know why.
Nick, I think Nick, I think sometime in this match, it's going to be time. It's going to be our favorite time. It's going to be Tiffany time. This is all about Tiffany Stratton's cash-in, which I think is going to happen. And because number one, if you ever notice now, anytime anybody cashes in, it gets a huge pop. And I posed this to CZ and Nick the other day. Tiffany Stratton's one of the top 3 hottest, and I don't just mean in looks, females in professional wrestling right now, in my opinion. And it's time to give her the title. Nia will probably lose the match, probably destroy Bayley after, and then Tiffany will run down with the briefcase, cash it in, and win. That's most likely what is going to happen here.
And if that happens, I'm super excited and I'm all for it. But if that doesn't happen, that was a wasted match opportunity for DIY to defend the tag titles, in my opinion.
I mean, I was talking about tag teams earlier and stuff, Wiz, but I mean, geez, now you just sound like you're just fanboying out for DIY. I mean, just
well, yeah, maybe a little. They're my boys.
It is a little crazy that we're in Cleveland and DIY doesn't even get on the show. As of right now, we don't know for sure, but is not on the show at this point.
100%.
Especially when they're defending the belts against the bloodline, the new bloodline, whatever you want to call them. Like, that should be on the show. Maybe it gets added, but then again, I'm thinking it's probably on Friday Night SmackDown at the very least. This coming Friday, but yeah, Bayley, Nia Jax. No one's looking forward to this match unless you're a diehard fan of either one of the two. I haven't met one yet, and yeah, everybody's waiting for Tiffany to come out.
Wait, have you not met Izzy? She's a diehard Bayley fan through and through. Come on, Izzy Mania's gonna run wild sooner or later. But that's the only one I know of, actually. I mean, I love Bayley, and I can appreciate what Nia Jax brings to the table.
I do too.
She is supposed to be that dominant heel character. I mean, you saw it a lot with TNA back in day with Awesome Kong. I mean, they've done this before with a lot of different women and men throughout time. Mabel was supposed to be that thing, where you just can't go through them. You got to try and pick them up and slam them. Yokozuna is, same kind of thing. I just don't think that Nia Jax has the likability that you would need to see in this level of championship match.
I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Agreed, Tom. Definitely not. I would probably go get popcorn from the microwave at this point, just like everybody is getting popcorn and going to the bathroom at the concession stands. But I want to touch base with DIY. They could add the match. You never know. They could add a match. Fingers crossed, but probably.
And CZ hopes it's DIY.
I mean, it should.
It should be. It's a tag team title match. It absolutely should be. You're gonna have the Judgment Day wrapped up with their storyline. They're not going to be defending the belts. Talking about Finn Balor and JD McDonough here. So there's one tag team not defending this. There should be a tag team title match on SummerSlam. There absolutely should be. Hopefully it gets added. Hopefully somebody out there is listening and they add it. But
I want to propose something here. Aside from that match, the only other thing I can see is maybe a 6-man tag, but they could be saving it. Members of the Wyatt Six going up against Chad and the Creed brothers.
You brought something up I was going to bring up a little bit later. Is do we see a Wyatt Six appearance at this SummerSlam? Are they teased? Do they show up? Do we see them at all, fellas?
Not unless. Sorry, go ahead.
I would almost think you'd have to. As Heather brought it up in our chat earlier, she wants to see the Wyatt Six versus Chad Gable in some type of match, and as much build up as it's been, I feel like not having an appearance, I think, especially the live crowd, I think would leave a lot of those kids disappointed. Like a lot of those people disappointed, hoping to come at least see them in some form.
Agreed, Zach. A lot of people are still, they shouldn't. I'm loving it. I don't care what the trolls online are saying. I love it. I think they're doing it justice for Bray. And this whole thing, I think Chad Gable's a great person to start with. especially with him being the world's worst jerk ever with the Academy, and now he's moved on to the Creed brothers, which is something we prayed for the longest time. Now we're getting it, plus the Wyatt Six. There's something there. I know people are like, well, it's pretty small. I'm like, no, it's building up to something. And I think they could add on to it at SummerSlam, whether it be a little segment in the ring just to buy some time, or whether it's an actual match. Personally, I think it's probably just going to be a little segment out in the ring just to buy some time for the next match.
I do too. I could see that for sure, Joe. Tom, Tim, any thoughts on the Wyatt Six showing up at SummerSlam?
I covered a little bit this last episode of the 2 Count. I think right now I'm not exactly thrilled with how slow the Wyatt Six has kind of developed past, that first initial launch. I appreciate the vignettes and the segments that they've been having. I do. But in my mind, I don't know if Chad Gable and the Creed brothers is a high enough profile matchup for the Wyatt Six. And that's just, if you're going to launch them as these killers and this group that has to pay homage to Bray Wyatt, I just don't think that Chad Gable and the Creed brothers, especially the Creed brothers, as part of this. I mean, they are still developing. They're still getting better themselves. But Chad Gable is one of your established stars. I would rather have this be almost Judgment Day Wyatt Six personally, just because I think that's the level that you should give the Wyatt Six. Now, obviously, we talked earlier as far as if you're going to have Finn and Liv kind of destroying the Judgment Day from inside, that makes a lot more sense to not have that. But I just think the profile of the Wyatt Six is already higher than the Creed brothers and Chad Gable.
So it's kind of a disservice to him in a way.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, especially with the fact that you already we already know who's behind it, at least enough with even just Bo Dallas and Eric Rowan. Those names alone, when you're talking about the echelon of the Wyatt family and who Bray's actually related to, who, kayfabe or whatever, I mean, those are guys who are already at a better and higher level than the Creed brothers. Will probably be 3-4 years away for the Creed brothers to be in that kind of echelon. So, again, their trajectory is great as far as the Creed brothers, but I just don't think this is the area you would have them start with the Wyatt Six.
I can agree with you on that, but I think there's one of those, well, we're going to take it slowly and just start here, then we'll move on. I think that's what they're doing, but I agree with you. They're already high profiled, and especially with the vignettes coming out each week with a different person, member of it, I mean, it's building up more than what it already has.
Tim, what are your thoughts?
I see him maybe doing a segment, but I don't see it being like a match. I really enjoyed the debut. I've enjoyed everything so far, but yeah, it does seem a little slow, but I think they've at least got some idea of where they want to go. And I like the fact that they're doing the vignettes with the Wyatt Six, where you're actually talking to Eric Rowan, actually seeing Bo Dallas. These are people paying tribute. They're not, with the exception of the opener and a little bit of some fog machines, we haven't seen anything super, super spooky, unreal, nothing Lucha Underground level of absurdity. Which, as long as you kind of put a normal human spin that these are people paying tribute to Bray, they were part of Bray's, circle and this thing, I really think this actually could work. So I could see maybe a segment, but not a match.
I can agree with that. Can I ask a question about the Wyatt Six?
No.
I want your opinions. I don't know if I was talking to someone or if I saw this online. Not. Nope, I'm taking over now. This is my show too, damn it. So when the Wyatt Six debuted, they obliterated everyone in the gorilla position. Yet when they come out, they're still, for the most part, coming out from gorilla. What do you guys think if they were to come out from the crowd instead of coming out? Because you got to think, after getting their butts handed to them into the gorilla position, they're not going to want these people coming through that area. Just realistically.
Yeah, I mean, from a story continue point, yeah, it would make a lot of sense, I guess, for them to either come out from underneath the stage somehow, or like you guys said, through the crowd even.
I keep waiting for Bruce Pritchard to be on a vignette being like, I don't want him anywhere near me.
but he's got to be in his brother love gimmick.
So
I did not think Brother Love would come up.
Brother Love. Anyhow,
Brother Love was not on my bingo card for tonight, gentlemen.
No, mine neither.
Way to screw it up there, Joe.
I'm just saying.
No, that's fair.
We got him in that Money in the Bank thing, so why not?
That's true. I think actually, I don't think the crowd's the way to go. I think personally, this is again my opinion. Coming through the crowd right now is so played out because Jon Moxley's doing it so much, and his just takes so damn long. You know, you see, the Usos, or you see the Shield to come through the crowd. I think the best way, instead of having them come from backstage or Gorilla and not even like a trap door, there's outside areas of the video, or the jungle or the Titantrons. Have them come around that way and then just meet in the middle, or come one way or whatever. Because where Eddie used to drive his car from, right? You always had that as an opening to just be able to get to the floor towards the ring. That's a perfect way, because then you can just billow out the smoke machine and just fill up the whole arena. The fireflies start hitting, turn off the lights, and then you just have one big bright light behind it. There you go. See?
And
I'm booking it for you, WWE.
Problem solved. We're solving problems here on the show.
And I can see it now, Tom. One by one, you see those shadows just forming, and that's perfect right there. I agree with Tom.
Where's the Brood's old elevator? Maybe we can pull that out of the warehouse.
I mean, if we're the trapdoor, the Broods. I mean, hell, let's have them just climb to the top of the Jumbotron and just die like Hawk did, right? I mean, that's too much.
Wow.
I said that. I apologize. Zach, you sure is wrong. I was wrong on that one.
I don't think any of them is fighting alcoholism. But
you don't know. Dexter Loomis definitely looks like a guy who could have problems. He just doesn't want to talk about it. Clearly, he does not want to talk about anything.
Oh, man. But Regal, to answer your question,
he did throw Mickey James in front of a train once.
Well, yeah, that is true.
Yeah,
that is true.
He did. Again, the guy's a stone cold killer. He just doesn't want to talk about it.
Regal, you asked where the Brood entrance is. It fell into a ring of fire. That's exactly.
Boo.
That's exactly.
Boo, Johnny Cash. Boo.
Hey, leave Johnny alone. But no, I agree. The whole the coming through the crowd, it's way overdone. Nobody's the Sandman, guys. Come on. But yeah, it is way overdone. I agree with Tom. Have him come out of the side of the Titantron and just reveal him one by one with the light. That's actually a perfect way to do it. Then have Bo be the one, if they're going to do that as a group, have Uncle Howdy be the one to come out from Gorilla.
Yes.
And they all unite with him when he comes out. I'm fine with that. That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Just do something different. You're right. The crowd thing's played out. It absolutely is. Jon Moxley, Jey Uso, The Shield, among others who are doing it. It is played out. And for them to do something different, because they're unique and different. We've established that already. And props to these VHS promos. These things are really done well. The editing on them, the content, like the stories that they're telling with these VHS promos is really good. I, for one, would love them all to enter from underneath the broadcast table so Cole would shit his pants. Six people coming up from underneath you like, what's going on here?
No,
it was all of a sudden a clown car.
They came from Little People's Court, okay? They just took the other exit and stepped under the ring.
I feel like the only match we really haven't talked about or what we think is going to happen going down is the Drew and CM Punk with Seth Rollins as the special guest referee. A lot of moving parts here, right? Rollins has beef with both guys. Having him here as a ref is pretty unique. Punk and Drew want to tear each other's heads off after what happened at the Rumble. The injury up to this, Punk costing Drew at WrestleMania. A lot of combustible elements here. How do you guys see this match shaking out? What's going to happen here?
I feel like with it being Punk's first singles match back, I almost feel like he has to lose here. I don't know, just kind of, I guess, earn his way back a little bit with the fans and even the locker room there. And I think I'll be shocked if Rollins is the one to actually count the 3 during this match. That's
Okay.
what I'll be more surprised by that than anything,
Okay.
I guess.
I could see it being a possible Shawn and Undertaker type deal where Rollins finally just grabs a chair, gets sick of Punk. Punk ducks, swing and the miss, and he hits Drew instead. And he has no other choice but to count that 3. We all know the first person that was visibly upset that CM Punk came back was Seth frickin' Rollins. Who better than have him do something that he does not and will not do, but he's forced to do, and to give Punk the 3. I would have to say, if that scenario happens, then Punk has to win. Any other scenario, Punk loses.
I mean, there's plenty of scenarios in AEW that Punk should have lost too, but so I have my doubts. I have my doubts that the ego will allow him to take a loss. So I think the way you basically played that out, Joe, is probably the closest we're going to get to a clean finish on this one is if somebody accidentally hits Drew with something. And the best bet would be Seth Rollins. And I believe that's maybe how you get it to CM Punk. But honestly, realistically, going forward from this point, if you make Drew McIntyre more of a killer and he just runs through CM Punk and then Seth freaking Rollins or vice versa, and then you have another referee, that's really the thing. Because this is a guy who has, again, you have to vindicate his feelings on this one. He feels he's been screwed out of everything. I mean, he won it the Royal Rumble or Mania in front of a crowd finally, and then it's so quickly taken away from him. He feels like he's being held down, which is a fine story for him to tell because kind of has been. He carried the company during COVID with there's no one there. He was the Thunderdome champion. And to now not get your opportunity in front of crowds, especially your home crowds, as far as Clash at the Castle. Jeez. I mean, come on. I mean, there's no better story, I think, in my mind with Drew McIntyre is to have him win because he just runs through everybody. No one's going to stop him anymore. He's going to get to that title, whatever title, run through everybody. Unless, of course,
it's a real storyline. Cry me a river.
Oh man!
River. Actually, I hope Drew McIntyre just plays that Justin Timberlake song as like a little snippet. Cry me a river, and then just why not?
So, for me, this is obviously the match I am the most looking forward to. I think there is no way this match is ending clean. It's going to be an absolute insanity-laden match. You've got, and to me, this is how you build like a three-way feud. 3 guys that, obviously, you have your 2 main guys, Punk and Drew, but the thing is, like you said, Seth was the guy who was jawing at Punk the moment he came back. It was, we were supposed to get Punk and Drew, or Punk and Seth at WrestleMania, but obviously injuries, and I think we're gonna get Seth and Punk at this year's WrestleMania because I think Drew and Gunther possibly your world title match on that side. So, like I said, I don't know if Drew wins here. I don't know if Punk wins here. I don't know what the finish is going to be, But guys, let's all talk about what we're all really, really, really interested in this match, and that is, how is Seth Rollins going to be the most absurd, insanely awesome looking referee to ever grace the squared circle? Is he coming? I'm guessing we're coming out full Beetlejuice, black and white striped suit.
Nah, man, he's gonna come out with a stuffed zebra with him, man. Like, are you kidding me? Stuffed zebra on wheels on it as a like riding in just to be a jackass.
Have him come riding in on a zebra.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I see it. Or just a Beetlejuice, but with big puffy shoulders for no damn reason.
Y'all know my boy ain't just coming out wearing a pair of jeans and a stripe at a referee shirt. He's coming out there loaded for pain.
As long as he doesn't wear the Shawn Michaels short black tights ref, I don't care.
It sounds like Nick has a little bit of issue with biker shorts, but hey, whatever. Nick, you, man.
The length on Shawn Michaels, yes. Now, I do like the throwback that you mentioned there, Joe, to the Survivor or SummerSlam Heart and Soul. It was 97 when it was Brett and Undertaker, and Shawn was the ref, and Shawn reluctantly had to do the 3 count for Brett. I hope it kind of goes down like that. That's
that'd be cool.
Theater. That's great theater. This isn't the last time we're going to see Punk and Drew interact. I think it's just the beginning. You got Bash in Berlin coming up. You've got Bad Blood coming up after. Will we see a Hell in a Cell match at Bad Blood? Who knows between these two? But if there's a 2 to have it, it's those 2. So I guess I'm really finally excited and interested to get this feud kicked off. Like we've been teased for months. We're finally going to get him in the ring, and then the magic's going to start. And that's what I'm really looking forward to the most, is seeing how these two play out on the screen and what we get out of it.
Either you have the blow off here at SummerSlam or you have it at Hell in a Cell. That way Drew can move on.
Yes. Yep. I'm totally fine by that.
I agree. Sign me up. Well, I think we've covered.
Is there a match we didn't cover?
I think so.
We didn't cover the DIY match, CZ.
Oh, shut up.
Nick, that was cruel. That's cruel.
I
bro.
had
That's
to.
cruel.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
I applaud that, Nick. I appreciate that. That's a sweet, sweet burn. Suck it, CZ.
I think I'm gonna cover the camera on next week's Moment of Focus. We'll cover up that.
Hey, he did say try something different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we let you guys off the hook, I want to go around and I want to give you all a chance to plug your socials, plug your shows, plug wherever we can find you. And I want to start with Tom.
Yeah, you guys can find me on the 2 count, like I said, every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Central, twitch.tv/2count wrestling, YouTube at 2 count 9907 for whatever reason that they want to do that. And then at the number 2 count on Twitter, as far as the live show goes every Tuesday. You can find me at Tom Chilstrom on Instagram and X. And then, I don't know, just do a search for Tom Chilstrom if you want to see where I'm doing comedy or anything else. And then if anybody, you mentioned this Central Empire show this Saturday, Algona, the Kossuth County Fair is going on, and Absolute Pro Wrestling will be there on Saturday as well, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, only a 2-hour show. So 2 to 4, you'll see me and Big Ace there. And then, that's about it.
Awesome. Zach.
Yeah, you can follow us on all of our social media accounts. Just search for Shotgun Wrestling Radio on Facebook, Shotgun Radio, and the number 1 over on Twitter. And follow me on Twitter at Zack Takis. And yeah, we should have a preview for that CEW show with Austin Bayless coming here probably Tuesday morning. So I'm planning on taping with him tomorrow night. So
awesome.
Fantastic. Joe?
Well, you can catch. I'll be back on live tomorrow on Facebook with the Eldridge and Monroe Horror Show. We're going to be going over Scream 4. Oh God, please pray for me on that one, guys. And and then on Friday we got another episode of the History of Pro Wrestling. We're going to talk about Rob Van Dam. The month of August, which I guess we kind of started this month, it's going to be ECW month. So this is going to be pretty cool. Every Friday we will have either. Every other Friday is a no-sell roundtable in History of Pro Wrestling, and Mondays is always the Eldridge and Monroe Horror Show. But other than that, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram under the Joe Monroe Show. We are the only ones on there, and we got Tiki Talk, which is hang on, God, stupid glasses. I'm getting old, guys. At Joe Monroe 94. Yep, there we go. Joe Monroe 94 is where you can find me on Tiki Talk. Apologize for that, gentlemen. I had to get my cheaters on. Turn into Shawn Michaels slowly, and the lazy eye is coming soon. But yeah, just find us. We're rebranding, so that's a huge step. Just be on the lookout. We got some new things coming, and hopefully, if any of y'all want to come on the round table, just let me know.
And of course, Regal, you're representing SCWPro as well as yourself.
Obviously, first thing, if anybody wants to follow me on Twitter, it's SCWRegal444. If you want to follow SCWPro, it is at SCWPro. We have got a big month of August, starting out August 10th in Bluegrass with SCWPro Hot, Hot, Hot. The following weekend, we are back-to-back Saturday, Sunday, 3 shows at Wake Brewing in Rock Island as part of the Alternating Currents Festival. And then obviously all roads leading to September for the SCWPro 21st anniversary show. Also, if you want to watch SummerSlam with me, head on down Saturday night to sponsor of the Cards of Exchange podcast, Low Pies Pizza. Get some amazing pizza. Listen to me and who knows, probably Alex McCarthy, maybe our good friend Stevie Mo, scream about wrestling, and occasionally you might hear me scream about soccer. But if anybody's a soccer fan wants to follow me, and Joe, by the way, no besmirching of Scream 4 because Scream 4 is amazing because that gave us the debut of Kirby Smart. So
that's the only thing good that happened in Scream 4, okay?
Oh, man. Well, I want to go around the room here. I want to thank Zack Takis of Shotgun Wrestling Radio, Top Shelf Tom Chilstrom from 2 Count, where comedy meets wrestling, Joe Monroe from the Joe Monroe Show, and of course, our good friend Timothy Regal for joining us on this roundtable discussion. I meant to mention this off the top. It is our birthday week here at Card Subject to Change. August 1st, 2022 is when the first episode drops. And Nick, I got you a birthday present that's a year plus in the making. We're coming back on Wednesday with Dante Leone in the studio. I'm excited about that one. He's been to Japan. He's been around the world. I'm excited to talk to him. And then next Sunday, I know Regal will be tuning into this one. We've got a couple of guests coming on to review SummerSlam with us. One, Jared Thumb, and Regal's favorite wrestler from SCW, the Feline Phenom, JT Energy. I know he'll be watching with bated breath on that one.
I'm busy that day, man. Oh damn!
I'll have to check in and see what this cat is all about.
There you go. There you go.
Oh.
Maybe since he's on the show, maybe I should do the moment of focus.
Okay, I'm all about that. If you want to record a Regal moment of focus, I will play it 100%. All right, gentlemen, this has been an absolute blast. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you so much, fellas.
For my tag team partner, one half of the For Frequency Sake Podcast Network champions, Never Wrong Nick Bull. I am the Wizard CZ. This is Card Subject to Change, the podcast by the fan for the fans, powered by Low Pies Pizza. built by Durham Remodeling, colored by Ryan Allison Tattoo, and of course, protected by Jared Zook Country Financial. We will see you back here Wednesday and then again on Sunday, right here on Card Subject to Change.